So society sees someone who has bipolar disorder as someone who's dangerous and look at them as a very negative way. Today I'm interviewing Katherine, who is bipolar and proud. She talks about how she uses her disorder as something that's like a superpower in a way. So she goes more into it. She talks about her story, and I hope you guys enjoy. Hey y'all, welcome back to Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine, and today I'm speaking with Katherine. We are going to be talking about bipolar disorder and how she stays bipolar and proud. I really like that take on the disorder and the positive attitude towards it. So we're going to be talking about her personal story and giving value to you guys. So welcome to my podcast, Katherine.
Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. This is so exciting. I am very, very ready to talk about bipolar and how I'm proud of it and how, I'll just say that bipolar people are super creative and super intelligent. So that's a really big thing about why I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, that's why I like that. I liked how you putting it in a positive light because part of the stigma is that people look at people who are bipolar as like someone who can be harmful to others, which is like that's totally not the case. So I definitely like that you do put that positive light on it. I'm just very excited to really dig deep into that conversation. But to begin, I would like, if you don't like whatever you feel comfortable in opening up, I would love to like hear your story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was diagnosed bipolar 1 in 2000. What was it like? Yeah, 2007, actually. And before that, I had been in, at that point, I was about 27 years old, right? So before 27, I didn't really figure out what was wrong with me for a long time, but I started acting out when I was very young. And then, of course, in high school, when drugs and alcohol were added to the mix, my brain just kind of like flew into more like delusions of grandeur and insomnia and aggressiveness. Yes, I am pretty aggressive. But anyway, I will say that at the moment, I've been on medication for 4 years, and I'll tell you about the medications later. But the story just begins. Let's just say like preteen, and then I finally got diagnosed at 27, and then I was hospitalized between 17 and 27 many times, numerous times, at psych wards or mental hospitals or whatever, and I would stay for a week or 2 weeks until my manic episodes kind of calmed down. And then so yeah, I mean it's really long story that I'm not gonna take the whole time talking about. But if you have any questions about any of that, I could delve deeper into any point.
Yeah, no, of course. I mean, I definitely know that would probably like going day by day in story and pretty much in and out of hospital. I know that definitely can be very like a long conversation.
Mm.
But I mean, for me personally, I've never been hospitalized, but I have been to the point where like I was like very extremely suicidal. I was diagnosed with bipolar when I was 17 years old. And I learned there. So what was like your like pretty much what was, if you don't mind, like of course sharing, what was your breaking point that you're like, okay, I need to like, get help?
Yeah, so the breaking point was when I was 37. Um, I started drinking heavily, like big boxes of wine. Okay. So I always talk about being bipolar, being an addict, and being an alcoholic. So that's not new news. So it just got to a point where, I drank so much. I was unmedicated. I drank so much that I, you know, did some stuff, and I'll tell you what it was just afterwards. And then I got arrested. And then when I got arrested so I'd been to jail at 17 for little petty things, right?
Mm-hmm.
When I have to sit back and be like, wow, how did I get here? And, I need help, obviously at that point. So yeah, I can tell you why I got arrested and all that too. So, but yeah, that's my lowest point was getting arrested.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, definitely being putting behind bars is kind of like, okay, it's like a wake up call. It's like, okay, now it's getting to the point where now you're getting like in trouble with like, the authorities and such. So yeah, and then definitely binge drinking and like just drinking is a huge part of like, not a huge part, like definitely happens for someone who is bipolar. And like I feel that because people who are bipolar are like extremely depressed, so they go like towards like drugs and alcohol. Like, do you feel like that was the reason why you went towards doing like alcohol and drugs?
Right, because bipolar 1 is like I have my manic moments out of the year and I have my depressive moments out of the year. That's what they call it clinically.
Mm-hmm.
But what I call a manic moment is more of a creative process.
Mm-hmm.
And what they call depressive is more of a re-energizing, because I can't always be performing and creating and on stage and on live without that re-energizing, and I can't always be low energy and no energy without performing. So I hope that helps other people listening, because don't let them tell you that you're depressed when it's not. Because see, some you might be depressed and that's fine, but some of you might not be depressed, and it's just because for me, I'm not suicidal or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that. I'm just like, I love life now, but I
Mm-hmm.
know the medications definitely help. And the I do have an addictive personality. I mean, when I'm manic, I can gamble. I can have like a type of sex addiction. Like I
Mm-hmm.
can be a shopaholic, So I have to be very careful. But the medications have helped, and I don't go crazy like I used to. Basically, is what I'm saying. So yeah, and then the drugs and the alcohol, of course. Like people would say, you're self medicating because you actually need mental health medications.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and then I can tell you the names of the medications I take, because a lot of people don't talk about that, but I'm open about it.
Yeah, I wonder if we take the same ones. Which ones do you take?
True. That's so true. So I and again, you know, it took a long time to figure out this mix. So I have tried lithium and Resperdal and all kind of big names, but those just didn't work for me. The ones that do work for me and have worked for me the last 4 years is Abilify, Prozac, and then Buspar and Wellbutrin. Now, the Abilify and the Prozac are like, for people that don't know, they're like the one of them is an antipsychotic, which
Mm-hmm.
I need, and the other one is a mood stabilizer. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and then the Buspar is for anxiety, low grade. I have low grade anxiety, and the Wellbutrin is actually supposed to help me quit smoking cigarettes, but we'll
Mm-hmm.
see.
Yeah, I think I took Abilify when I was like 17. I right now I take Lamotrigine,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't even pronounce the other one. It starts with a Q. I'm like about to
Mm,
like open up my like little medicine pouch and be like, what is the name of this one that I take? But it's done pretty good for me. It
mm-hmm.
helps for like the depression part of it. So one for the manic, one for the depression. It's called like um Q-tip something. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they're really difficult to to pronounce. They are.
Yeah, I can never pronounce these things. Lamotrigine was easy, but
Mhm.
Q-tip, I don't know. It's that one I take. That one's really for depression. But I know they do better on it when they're like lower dosage. Like I was on like my psychiatrist was putting me like on 200 milligrams of Lamotrigine. I kept getting like the illest headaches,
Mm,
and it was just messing. I try to get back on a bill because Abilify worked pretty okay for me when I was 17, but I was also like 17 and stupid and thinking like, oh, I feel better, I don't need medication anymore, and I went off it.
mm,
But yeah, that
mm,
was, I was 17 and I was just, but then I was like, oh, let me try Abilify again. And then it started like when I was taking the Abilify, I started getting like my hands were shaking. I started like
mhm.
feeling like I was getting like tremors, like all of a sudden like I just like thought like felt like an earthquake, and I'm like, oh my god, I don't think I'm gonna go into like a seizure or something like that. So I went
Mhm.
off it because it was just like not feeling right in my brain.
Yeah,
So yeah, so I mean, it's just like some things can work for you at one age, and then like a teenager's it's really like a teenager's body and brain is like way different than like an adult,
sure.
an adult's
Absolutely.
brain. So it just made sense. So I went off that, and so far what I'm on right now currently is good for me. I feel like I've been in a better mental state. The thing that I like struggle the most is like with my depression.
Mhm.
But I feel like a lot of I feel like what the medication has done best for me was take me off the edge.
Mm.
Because without medication, like I had a harder time controling my emotions. I was suicidal, but I feel like taking medication like took that out, so like wasn't so like because being bipolar can be dangerous, very dangerous. So that's basically took like the danger part out, and then I've been trying to do like just other lifestyle things as well for my mental health.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, super creative, super intelligent, you know?
yeah. And a lot of people do say that, and I truly do believe that. Do you know how like Kanye West is bipolar?
Right.
Yeah, and
Hmm.
he's like extremely creative. Like he has like
Right.
this magical like touch with things. So I'm like that, and like Kim Kardashian even says like he's very like intelligent, but like a lot of people just don't understand him. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's yeah, and it's crazy. It's like um we're just like I feel like we're just like a very unique kind of human being. It's like I like question for you, like relationship wise, have you like struggled in like that department?
Absolutely. At the beginning, I did when I was younger, obviously, because I mean, I was just like really just a mess in all aspects, psychologically, mentally, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
But now that I'm like in my 40s, I've been married for 14 years
Nice.
to the same person, and it's amazing. So there is hope, you know. So
Yeah.
like absolutely at when I was 17, 18, 19, I mean, it was just a I was a wreck, and all of my relationships were a wreck. But then when I hit 27, and then I started taking medications at 27 for a little while as well, kind of calmed down my brain and stuff, and then I met, my husband. And so um yeah, and we've been together ever since. And it's cool, like a lot of people might lose hope in that because they are struggling in their relationships. But I will tell you that as far as my family, my extended family, they've pretty much disowned me,
Really? Hmm.
That's okay. I'm okay with it. Like they don't there's like one or two people out of my whole entire family, which is a huge family. Obviously, we all have big families, everybody has their extended family, and it's some are pretty big. Mine is big. Only like one or two still call me every once in a while and check up on me. Everybody else has like completely disappeared. I'm talking mother, uncle, cousins, they're just like they had enough. Basically, they had enough back in the day, right? So yeah, so that happens. So my nuclear family is the one that keeps me going and gives me all the support and love that I need. So, if I'm saying all that because um it can be a very lonely and isolating um disorder.
Yeah. And
Hmm.
honest, yeah, I mean that's also like that's really I mean, for me, like right now I'm currently 26. So
Hmm.
like maybe in 27 I'll meet that person. But But no, honestly, like I've had relationships where it has failed because of my mental health. Like
Mm.
my last, I mean, I don't know, wouldn't say my last one. I wouldn't say it failed because of my mental health, but I would say that like the guy I dated couldn't like handle it, if that makes sense. So like, you
Yeah,
know, when I'd be depressed, like I would be, you know, like going through a hard time and I'll like be negative and this and that. And I think he just didn't like after a while he just couldn't like take being around it and he would like distance himself from me. And then like, you know, that's when our relationship started going downhill. And then the guy before that was pretty much saying like you need to go back to therapy and this and that. And like, it's pretty like, I don't know. I don't want to fully blame my mental health on it. Like, I just, it's not like the guys are like pretty much like hating on people with mental health, but I guess it takes a certain person to, you know, stick through those kind of hard times. And, you know, like they can't just always have me at my best. You know what I mean? Um, so
absolutely.
I just think I'm still waiting for that one that, you know, like they can date me longer than they can get deeper into relationship and see me at that worst and not like, you know, back out. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. And you make an excellent point. It happens to a lot of people with mental health disorders, schizophrenia, and all the other ones too. Um, but you just have to look. What I used to do is I used to test people to see if they would stay with me through my hard times, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like childish, obviously. Back in the day, I would test people, see how much crazy of mine would they be able to take. So when I stopped doing that and was just like, look, the honest truth is I am, bipolar and I have my ups and I have my downs and I lead a very, unorthodox life. And I hope that you can accept me for who I am, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
in relationships, there's always that compromise and then that trust factor and then that acceptance factor and then just so many things, sacrifice that we have to, in that sometimes we don't. If we're selfish, we're never going to make it with anybody else. We have to
Yeah.
be selfless in relationships as well. It has to be a balance of both people have to be on the same page.
Yeah. No, that.
Otherwise, just
Did you know that the average life expectancy of someone who's bipolar is 27?
what is that? No, I did not know that. Is that due to suicide?
Yeah, yeah. I
No.
believe so. Yeah, I think yeah, it's 27. I that in BPD.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one. Yeah, I was also diagnosed with that one. Um,
Yeah, so I right now I'm just currently like on document diagnosed with bipolar according to my medical records. But when I was like 17, like I vaguely remember the first meeting I had with a psychiatrist, but I'm pretty sure he put borderline personality disorder. I feel like, but they just treated me for bipolar. And even though like it's kind of like they kind of like are cousins together. But I just don't like I remember that, but I don't really like think I don't know how to find those medical records because like I was like I need to like ask my mom. I don't remember think my mom even remembers like the name of the psychiatrist. Like it was like almost 10 years ago. Um, but if I can find those medical records, cause I want to see like what could I. Cause at the time I didn't know really much about mental health, so pretty much I just answered the questions as the guy asked me about like like my history and whatever and how I felt and this and that. And he
right.
said I think he said borderline personality disorder and um, bipolar. And then as I went on like with life, I went to college and they just diagnosed me with anxiety and depression. And they're like, oh no, we don't think you're bipolar. And then I moved and I saw like, I kind of been in and out of therapy, like different therapists and different psychiatrists with like, cause I've moved to different places and such, which I hate always having to like retell my whole life story. Um,
Yeah.
and now I'm diagnosed with bipolar. So it's like, And, I don't know, it's just kind of like I feel like I'm being diagnosed differently in like different psychiatrists, and it's just kind of gets me a little concerned that I really hope that like they know what they're doing, if that makes sense.
Right. And then there's different types of bipolar. There's bipolar 1, bipolar 2, hypomania, so
Yeah.
I think I don't live by what they tell me. I live by what I know. And I've
Yeah.
done a lot of self discovery and self healing, and I'm a very spiritual person, and
Yeah.
I meditate, and you know um so stuff like that helps, just
Oh,
being,
definitely.
being one with the nature and the universe and things like that.
Oh, I'm like truly big on that too.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's honestly, I think that's also really big with mental health, and I also think it's just like extremely healing. And mental health is just so like complex. You know what I mean? Like I feel like it takes a life really a
Mhm.
life to understand it.
Mhm.
And like that's truly like my mission is to help educate people while also like continuing on educating myself. And then honestly, like with my podcast, I've literally have learned from so many different people, which
Yeah.
is like truly amazing. Like I've interviewed people from all over the country, a couple
Mhm.
outside of the country, and just like learning how mental health is seen in like Europe and like all these other countries in Canada.
Mm.
And it's just so much to it. And honestly, like, oh, since you said that you said you were diagnosed in 2007.
Yeah.
So mental health was like definitely treated differently then. Like, did
Mhm.
so like tell me your experience, just because I know like when I was having like my issues in high school, like people like didn't want to like be bothered with me. They just think I'm looking for attention, like that kind of
Mhm.
like people are just being ignorant. Like,
Mhm.
what was your experience on that? Like, in 2007? Like, how do people treat you?
Like in high school or at 27 or
Oh,
both?
like 2000, like, okay, so I guess like 2007, like when you knew you were diagnosed with a mental disorder, like how did
Right.
people around you treat you? Because I know it wasn't like as talking about, much in 2007 than it is in 2021.
I've honestly always been a person that never has cared about what
Mm-hmm.
other people think or say about me. And so I don't listen, basically. So I
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they were thinking. I'm sure they were thinking, wow, she's insane. But like that's nothing. That's like, yeah, I am. There is some insanity about me, but that's what makes me me, and I love
Yeah.
myself. And I'm all about self-love, self-care,
Yeah.
and so I guess I just don't really listen to what other people are saying or thinking or doing about me. You know what I'm saying? Like I just went about my life and just did what I did, and surely I was very selfish and didn't care who I hurt and stuff like that too. I don't do that now, but I did it back then. Yeah. So
Mm-hmm.
I hope that answers your question. But the truth is, I just don't. I'm really unbothered by it.
Yeah. So no, that's honestly like a true like badass thing, is that like you just don't care. Like it takes like honestly, there's so many people who care so much about what people think of them. And it's really like upsetting when they care to the point where it's like, oh, I can't go out if my hair doesn't look good if I don't have makeup on, for
Mm,
example. Like that is like I feel bad for those people, because I feel like it's just unnecessary anxiety. You know what I mean? It's
mm,
unnecessary, like those like negative energy. You know what I mean? Because in reality, if you're going out to a grocery store and you look like crap or whatever, no one gives a fuck. Like seriously, like who cares? Like people are just out there buying their bread or whatever. Like no one
People, yeah,
cares.
like, this really helped me. People are into themselves, not into other
Exactly.
people. Like he cares about him, I care about me, you care about you, she cares about her. She's not worried about me, and I'm not worried about her. It's just
Yeah.
once I got that theory of people are so self-involved,
Yeah.
it was just the freedom about everything else. I'm just like, I just let it go. I just let it all go, even further that I had already not cared before. It was like it's a up level of freedom and not caring. And so And then I'll just say this, before I became a public persona, right, and was like doing the live videos and, doing all that, I have to decide whether or not I was going to stay behind the scenes or go in front of the camera. And I knew that once I made the decision that I was going in front of the camera, I knew that there were going to be a lot of haters and trolls and all that stuff. But that's okay. I mean, I have one titled I love my haters. I actually appreciate them very much because they bring in more publicity, and I'm okay
They
with that.
do. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I honestly like honestly, if people like hate on my stuff, I'm like, yes, keep hating, keep going, keep boosting in the algorithm for me.
Yeah, and people are so worried about bad or negative reviews on their podcast, or negative reviews on their books, or negative reviews on their Google or website or whatever. And it's like, it's really not that, to me, it's just really not that big a deal or serious. And it's like, if you've made it when you get
I mean,
haters,
didn't like Rebecca Black got famous from being hated? Remember that Friday song? Like, everyone hated that song and thought it was like stupid, and then like now she's like rich and famous.
Exactly.
She's not really that relevant anymore, but like at the time, like that's like she literally was like known for getting famous for being hated.
Right. Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's like, oh well, time. Life keeps ticking away. We just move on, and it'll all be forgotten later on.
Yeah.
That
so
or
were
whatever.
you? So from what I'm seeing, I feel like you were just always just kind of like had the whole like you don't care what people think kind of attitude, which is great. Did you always feel like that, or is that part of like personal growth for you, or were you like just always just didn't give a fuck pretty much?
Yeah. Geez, I'm gonna say it has been a process. The older I'm getting, the less I care, obviously.
Yeah.
But the last time I remember caring about, what people thought of me and stuff was in middle school. Because in middle school I did care, but when I got to high school and I was like a senior, and I was like, oh, this doesn't matter anymore. I don't know the drugs. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes you feel more powerful when you're on like, crystal meth or something.
I mean, I never did that before, but
which is totally fake. It's a fake power. But just in the drugs that I was doing, I just felt like I had control over that, and I was like, I don't know. So I think my journey for that, for not caring about what other people think, started in high school for me, and then it just grew and grew.
Yeah,
but it's a decision too. It's
of course, yeah.
It's not something that just happens. I mean, because some people obsess over what other people are, writing about them or saying about them or gossiping about them or so. I'm like, talk about me, talk about me, because you must be jelly.
Yeah, or like obsessed with me or whatever,
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. Which, it is what it is,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, when I was in middle school, I cared a lot in middle school because at the time, like, I didn't really, know much, you know what I mean? Because I was bullied from my memory, like third grade up until, I mean, I was bullied in college too, but like it's different. Like you just having crazy like roommates who have like a bullying kind of personality. But like bullying that I had from that actually affected me was probably from third grade to like mid high school. Because in high school, I remembered like, have you ever heard of Formspring? It's a website for like anonymous. Okay, yeah, I feel like not a lot of people know about it. Well, it's not there anymore because it for many reasons. So pretty much, it was a website that you can like ask a question anonymously. So when you can ask a question anonymously, what that opens, what door that opens up, right?
Yeah.
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 So all my haters in high school, people who like didn't like me, was like, oh, this is perfect. Let me go bully Justine. And they did. And I literally went viral with hate. Like people kept constantly like I kept refreshing my inbox and like it was always a different hate comment. And some of them were just like, go hang yourself, or here's a rope, or this and that. And
Right.
like I would get stuff like that. And I was just like literally just like I was like literally on my laptop reading all of these comments and I'm like, oh, okay. And I close my laptop and I go to a Sweet 16 and I go party that night. And I was like, okay, fuck it. Like, I was like, I have friends. And like, I think that what makes me feel like at comfort is that like, I have friends, I have, people that support me and that love me. And like everything else, all these hates, like, I don't care. Like what's the point? You know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
okay, so before we end, is there a little bit of advice, any last advice you would like to give my listeners?
Yes, of course. It gets better. It just gets better. I'm having such a great life in my 40s. My 20s were difficult, my 30s were complicated, but my 40s have been amazing. I'm just like, happy, joyous, free, and successful. And so, if you're younger and you're like hopeless, just hang on. Just
Yeah,
hang
keep
on
going.
and keep going, and don't give up on yourself, and don't give up hope. And if you feel like, it's about that time for you to maybe try some medications, and do it slowly and just try out something that works for you. I am a very big proponent of medication because it's worked for me. Because I know if I wasn't on medication, I'd be in prison, because I've had times where I've ran around naked on the street, stuff like that back in my 20s and stuff. Okay.
Nice. Okay.
So that's what I want to say. You don't have to get to that nutty point, and there's so much help out there now, and
Yeah.
talk about it and be open about it, and don't be ashamed, and don't feel guilty. It's nobody's fault. For me, I was born this way, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah. Definitely acceptance is a big thing too. Well, thank you so much for being on my podcast and providing this value and bringing your story on here. It is definitely really appreciated. And thanks for everybody who is listening. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, evening, night. Well, night is evening, morning, wherever you are. And I post every single week. So definitely watch out for the next episode. But yeah, thanks guys for listening. All right, so for next week's episode, we are going to be talking with Himanish, who is going to talk with us about spirituality and mental health. And he is going to teach us how he used positive thinking into finding his next big thing. It is a super exciting episode, so stay tuned for next week.